Well, good morning. Happy New Year 2023 to all you Coventrians and people interested in Coventry's history. What we have here is a sketchbook of mainly Victorian, actually all Victorian scenes of the city, mainly of the city centre, but a few a little further out. And I'm just going to run you through it the best I can. So what we've actually got on here, it says Coventry Sketches before Godiva Street was made, Astley Rope Walk, Court, Cock Street, Spon End. But there's a lot more, as we will see. It's very fragile. You can see some of the bits falling off, which is why I don't really go into this too much. Right, apologies for the camera work. It's Winsor & Newton, top quality brand. I'm still using that myself today, 150 years after some of these. Okay, so we start off. This first one is Cock Street end of Godiva Street, and it's the note says washing day and old house on the right pulled down. So if you ever blame the City Council and the Luftwaffe for destroying Coventry's heritage, it was already happening. Excuse the big hairy hand. This one, Ball Hill, Stoke. That was done on Sunday the 22nd of August 1897, and it certainly doesn't look like the Ball Hill that I'm used to. Very far from it. We move on to the next page. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, if you like, but this is the site of Godiva Street on a windy day, 10:45 a.m. on the 28th of August 1997. Now, he must have been a very quick sketcher, because at 11:15 on the same day he was here. Astley's Rope Walk. Views that rarely get seen. So whoever the artist was had a real interest in the social history, the fabric of the city. That is described purely as a court in Spon End, and we've got two courts in Cock Street in quick succession. There's one. And there's a different view of another. So there's several sketches of courts in the city centre. So obviously he was fascinated by that life. Now, any writing on here on the left hand side has gone with age. It simply says here Stoke. So I don't know what these buildings are. If anyone has a clue, brilliant. We come back to another court, this time in Well Street. The buildings are such, those amongst us, or those amongst you like me, who have criticised the piecemeal building of post-war Coventry, can look for the pre-First World War era, the Victorian era. The rise of Coventry as a manufacturing place saw everything knocked down. We've seen the old post office, many of you have, and the mystery almost solved thanks to Patricia and Rob. And there was also another picture I posted of the cottages at the Burnt Post. This one is quite interesting. No mention of the firm, but basically Coach Builder's Yard, Much Park Street. And that was still in 1897, so a lot being done. Now that's the back of another area. It rings a bell, but there's nothing on this. It's a pen and ink sketch, other than the date, something of the 6th, 1897. There isn't, and the fact it was done at 10:40 a.m. in the morning. There's nothing else on there. Obviously, this was cut from another book and pasted on. Now you can see how fragile the book is, which is why it rarely gets an outing. But here we have another court view. This one says MPS, Much Park Street, and it looks like court number 6 he seems to have put, but we go back to Godiva Square off Silver Street with the splendid looking Fox Inn. And then here we have, it's difficult to read some of the writing, but Old Cottage. It looks like Park Street, but can't be sure. The notes say it was pulled down. There's a lot of the pictures in here of buildings that were pulled down, which is fascinating. Bailey Lane. Again, 1897, September of that year. And again, this is a sketch that's been placed in this book from elsewhere. And then we have a little Park Street picture, sketch. His attention to detail on the buildings, the architecture, is very impressive. And here we have another sketch of Little Park Street, and it says, drawn after sketch by J.T.T. Now, I remember when I first was handed these books by my great-grandmother, trying to work out who J.T.T. was. I remember talking to the city archivist at the time, and it meant nothing to him. And I used the Coventry Evening Telegraph archive as well, as best as I could, and drew a blank. So this is the old grammar school as we know it, Hale Street approach. And then this one, Parkside, near bottom of Little Park Street. A very quick sketch here, which is Bailey Lane, with the note that the house on the right has been pulled down. Oh, the Coventry we have lost. This sketch here is Spawn End and the Butts. While on this side, it's the easily recognisable St John's Church, this time from the Poddy Croft. That must be Christchurch spire, but that is a view of Coventry from the road to Coventry Station in 1885. So there's a real jumble of years in this book. And then on this side we have the park near the end of Little Park Street. This one is just a view of Coventry. And here we have another picture of Godiva Street. This basically said the backs of the houses in Godiva Street, and with a lovely little note saying the view of those on the right now intercepted by Colcott's new cycle works, and this was 1896. The pace of change was significant in Coventry of those days. Another picture of St John's Church. Nice to see that some things never change. And then here's a mystery that I've not really invested any time in. But this is Old Tower, Coventry, it's described as. 1890. So excuse the camera work, but Old Tower, there is a huge chimney in the background, and there was one of those in Holbrooks near the city centre, but it's just a scene I profess I've not seen before, if you pardon the pun. Now then, this is a view of the Triumph Works in 1895. And then we come to Charlesmore from what looks to say Corbett's Garden. Now when it says Charlesmore, that could well be right on the city centre as we know it today, and that could be Christchurch again. This is St Mary's Hall in 1897. And here's another sad one. Remains of old priory from Priory Street, now pulled down, Triumph Works. This is another view of Triumph Works, and again from Priory Street. Sorry, I was just reading, and again it's just a simple pencil sketch. Little artistic merit, but the social history value is interesting. Swanswell. And I presume that's looking to St Mark's and the hospital. And if I can just grab this last page, I've got to be really careful. I don't know whether I've just smudged half of that. I should have used gloves. And then here's one for the journalists amongst us, which I was for 30 years. Fire at Humberworks, July the 17th, 1890. And there is the Coventry sketchbook that was my great-great-grandfather's, handed to me by my great-grandmother, and in my possession ever since. Still don't know who sketched it. Obviously somebody with time on their hands and a bit of skill. So with the other books that we've got, this one has a little bit more notes. This is in 1875. And just there's obviously just scratching an itch, but there is a lovely one of Bretford somewhere, which I'm hoping to just... The lack of information is a real frustration. Obviously, that's near Ipswich, that one, but there are a couple. Near the back, I guess, but I suppose I should have checked earlier with this. Newland Hall. Now that's Exhall. And my grandfather had something to do with it, but there's lots of mysteries in the family. There is nothing about this splendid double page sketch. Not even an idea. But again, farming, a huge farm. That's Benfleet, but somewhere on the Avon. So I enjoyed some of the bridge at Wolston. Some things don't change. And that is described as the River Avon, Ryton. Newland Hall again. Wolston. I'm sure those the sides of that barn or those buildings are still there, or were 20 odd years ago. There's not a mention of where there, but any of you knowledgeable about Bretford will realise that those buildings remain. Sadly, no date. Everything is a mystery as regards who, what, why, where, when, and how. But I hope it sparks an interest.